How's it going, everyone? Today I'm going to show you how to bleed the brakes on your JDM Toyota MR2 using the single person method. As you've all most likely noticed, this video is in English, so most of my videos thus far have been in Japanese, but I'm thinking about doing more videos, especially the how-to vids like this one, in English to reach a wider audience. But if you really want my videos to be in Japanese, please comment in the comment section below, and I'll consider it. So, bleeding the brakes on your MR2 or any car is much easier than it may seem or sound. Once you jack up the car and remove the wheels, it shouldn't take any longer than an hour, even if you take it slow, or maybe 2 if you are a total beginner at working on cars. The things you need to do this are things to jack up the car on all fours and remove the wheels, an 8mm socket wrench, which is recommended but not necessary, an 8mm closed, open, or flared nut wrench of choice, a one-man bleeder, this is for the one-person method, I will also put an Amazon link in the description, about 1 liter of DOT3 brake fluid, and of course other DOT brake fluids can also be used, but please do your own research about this. I will not explain this in this video. And paper towels are always handy. Alright, to get started, get the car up on all fours on jack stands, make sure it's stable, and then remove all 4 wheels. And then you can pop open the front to reveal the brake master cylinder and the brake fluid reservoir right here. As you can see, it's got the max and min lines, and right now it's in the middle-ish area since this fluid has been here for over a year and the brake pads have worn down, and which means that more fluid is now behind the brake caliper pistons. And then over here at the rear caliper, you can see this little notch right over here, and this is where we will be doing the brake fluid bleeding from. And this is located here on the front calipers. So now we want to open the reservoir cap, but before we do, we want to clean the surroundings real quick so we reduce the risk of any unwanted things going into the reservoir. We open the cap so that when the fluid is pushed into the brake lines, when we press down the brake pedal, air can come into the reservoir to compensate, and so there is no unwanted negative pressure buildup inside the reservoir. We want to open the cap so air can come in, but we still want to keep the cap on top so no particles can fall in. And so now we can get started with the first caliper. Since the master cylinder is there by the driver side, we will start at the rear left caliper, since the basic rule to bleeding is to start the farthest away from the master cylinder and then move closer little by little. This order is not completely mandatory, but it's something most people stick to. You can't go wrong with it, and there is logic behind it for most cars, so it's best to just stick to this. So now that you are at the rear left caliper, you want to take this small rubber cap off the bleeder screw, and then this is where I'm going to pause for a second. So there's nothing technically wrong with what I'm doing here, but the recommended method here is to first loosen the bleeder screw ever so slightly with a 6-point socket wrench first. So these bleeder valves, they get pretty tight with rust and whatnot, and with an open-ended or these 12-point wrenches, you are way more likely to round off the bleeder screw. Therefore, it's the best way to start with a 6-point socket, being careful not to loosen too much, and to just crack it open the very beginning part, because if you loosen it too much, then the brake fluid will come out. So just crack it open, tighten it back up a little bit or something, and then switch to the other wrenches for the rest. So based on that information, choose whatever method you want at your own risk. You can start off with the other wrenches as well if you're okay with the risk of rounding off the head. So, resuming the video now, depending on whether it's an open or closed wrench, get the wrench on before or after you get the one-man bleeder hose on. Also, as the bleeder breaks, the brake fluid level in the reservoir will go down, so keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't get too low. If air gets into your system from here, it could get quite messy, especially with ABS cars, so top it off often. Now I will finally crack open the bleeder valve, and you can see some brake fluid oozing out, but not much since the line is not pressurized yet. And now you can get into your seat and press the gas pedal all the way down to the floor, so it might feel a little weird at the beginning because there's very minimal resistance and the pedal goes all the way down. And on the brake bleeder side, you can see now that the fluid is coming out, and you can also see many air bubbles. The color isn't so bad yet with this fluid, which is supposed to be old, but the amount of air bubbles is pretty bad considering there are actually many microscopic air bubbles that you can't see are actually in there too. So this is all bad stuff that's coming out, which is a good thing. And after you press the pedal, you can release it right back and then rinse and repeat, being mindful that every time you press the brakes, the brake fluid level in the reservoir is going down and you have to really refill it every now and then. And now if you look at the reservoir, the fluid has gone all the way down to the min, so I'm gonna fill it back up to a little past the max line. A funnel would be a very nice tool to have here, but as you can see here, not necessary. But brake fluid is very corrosive, so be careful about spilling it anywhere basically. But especially if you get it on any painted body panels, wash it off right away with abundant water and just keep going at it. And once the macroscopic air bubbles are out, it's kind of hard to tell the fluid moving because it's already pretty clear. But you want to keep going and make sure all the old fluid is out. If you fill to just above the max line, you should be able to get a good 8-10 pumps before the fluid reaches close to the minimum line. But there may be some differences depending on the MR2 rev, the 1 to 5. Because especially I know ABS systems differ a lot amongst the revs, so please test the number of pumps with your own vehicle. So since my old fluid was already pretty clear, it's kind of hard to tell when the whole rear left lines have been flush and the new fluid is flowing, but now I am done with the rear left. And once you're done, make sure to tighten the bleeder valve, but not to over torque it for the next bleeding session you will have. I couldn't find specific torque specs in the repair manual, unfortunately, but it should be tightened snug, but no need to tighten it down with all your strength or anything like that. Then get the one-man bleeder bottle and the whole tube below the bleeder valve, height-wise, so that it all drains into the tank. And then remove the hose slowly to prevent the brake fluid from dripping everywhere. And then also by removing it slowly, you allow air to get into the hose, which helps it to drain even more. So then finally get the rubber cap back on, and this caliper, this brake line is done. And now on to the right rear side. The steps are basically the same, so I'll start skipping here and there a little bit. But I actually want you to see how much air comes out of this side because it's quite insane. And then to the front left. And then we end with the front right. And now, once all 4 lines are done, you want to top off the brake fluid somewhere between the maximum and the minimum lines. Since I will be replacing my brake pads soon, I am only going to fill up about halfway between max and min. Then make sure the cap is back on tightly. And then I personally just like to go around each bleeder valve one more time, ensuring they are tight, ensuring the caps are on. And then I also run another test by pressing hard on the brakes with the engine on, because I want the brake booster helping me as well. So, and then after this hard brake pressing test, I will go around the car one more time to make sure there are no leaks. after being pressurized, either from the end or the base side of the bleeder valve. And then that's it. So this is how you bleed the brake fluid on a Toyota MR2. So if you enjoyed, please like and subscribe, and thank you for watching.